Let's talk to Harjap Singh Bhangal. He's a UK immigration lawyer, a friend of the show. A very good afternoon to you, Harjap.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Now, of course, one of the big issues that has been a massive issue in French politics for the last few years, and has seen that growth from Marine Le Pen, is one of the biggest issues for us in this country. No wonder. Tories promised to tackle the problem of illegal immigration. They were going to, quote, stop the boats under Rishi Sunak. Then we had smashing the gangs from Keir Starmer. He's been hosting an international border security summit today. Some representatives of some 40 countries here. Basically, trying is not just looking at having dealings with France or the EU, but going back across the world to where the people are actually coming from, trying to talk about all the different things they can do to try and stop the gangs. Do you have any expectation that any of this will remotely work?
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, well, we know so far that Labour, when they came into power, they were tasked with three things. One was bringing the number of visas granted down, which they've managed to do. Two was sending the number of people back going up, which they've managed to do. And the third, which is a thorn in the side, is stop the boats and stop the channel crossings, which they haven't managed to do.
They've got up.
And that still remains a thorn in the side. So you can see now the policy is all geared to and concentrated on getting these channel crossings down. And this is ultimately what this government, I feel, will be judged on at the next election, and what they're going to be judged on a yearly basis. Immigration, it isn't just a countrywide issue, Julia, and you alluded to this. It's a worldwide issue, from America to Canada, to Asia, to Europe, and now. But what we're seeing now is, with the rise of nationalist parties and parties who are anti-immigration, there's a threat to parties in power and governments, and they need to get that vote back. And they realise, look, we're not going to be able to get it back without cutting immigration down.
No, indeed. But again, we talk about anti-immigration. I mean, again, in this case, we're talking about pro-borders, pro-law. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not allowed to just go and live in any other country you darn well feel like it. And we know that there are things that do work, crucially, the pull factors. We know that they were able to deal with, Tony Abbott, when he was Prime Minister of Australia, was able to deal with the issues in Australia by stopping the boats never landing in Australia. You were processed on an island off the coast of Australia, and then you were sent back. The boats virtually stopped within, like a month. And they'd seen people dying and got on a horrific scale. That stopped because there was no point coming. We've seen with Donald Trump, for all his failings and faults that people can criticise him for, in his first term, he closed the borders effectively. We've seen a massive, huge number, some 10 million people are thought to have arrived in the United States in the last 4 years under the Biden administration. Come on in, the water's lovely, just come on in, it's fine. And then immediately when Donald Trump gets in executive order, that flow has massively fallen. If countries take this seriously, if they make it harder to get in and make it impossible to stay, people don't come. We could do that here.
Well, the fact is, what needs to happen is we need a system to administer all of this. And our Home Office is broken. Our machinery is broken. None of this is going to be possible until you fix the machinery.
And when you say fix it, do you mean literally sacking everybody at the Home Office and then starting again?
I think we need to start from scratch. I really do. I think what we're trying to do is paper over all of these walls and paint them over. And we've done this for the past 20 years and it hasn't worked. So doing it again just, is stupidity in my view, and is futile. What we need to do is work out a new system. So the removals need to be faster, which is sort of happening now. 23,000, 25,000 removed in about 7-8 months. That's good figures. The Tories never really achieved that.
It's better than the Tories were doing, but it doesn't touch the sides of the number of particularly young men here.
Well, if you're getting 30,000 or 35,000 coming in and you're sending 35, 40, 50,000 back, I think that's a plus. So it's better than what's happening before. The number of visas has come down drastically. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands. So that's a point, but that actually, ironically, was just before the election, was policies introduced by the Conservatives, which you wonder, well, why did they just introduce that then? Why haven't they introduced it 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
Well, a lot of us are asking that. And it would appear an awful lot of Tory voters who didn't vote for the last election are asking that too. But here's the thing. It's not just the illegal migrants issue. We know it's also the massive number of visas that have been issued and making that Boris wave of legal migrants coming here perfectly legally. But it's absolutely fascinating to see Yvette Cooper, their Home Secretary, pointing out that actually migrants who've overstayed their legal visas account for nearly 40% of all asylum claims. So these are people who turn up, some 40,000 people who turned up as overseas students, as migrant workers or visitors on tourist visas, who as soon as that visa is ended, after maybe a few months or a few years, have gone, oh, it turns out I'm actually an asylum seeker and I can't go home. Those people should automatically be sent home, shouldn't they?
Well, they should be very easy to send home, and the claims should be very easy to be dismissed. These are people who have come and got their own passport, applied for a visa at the embassy, been assessed to have savings to come and study or work here, shown they've got very comfortable back home, we've got reasons to study and go back home. Then all of a sudden they haven't turned up at uni, or they've been caught working elsewhere, they've been detained and they've claimed asylum. Now, this is a lot of people from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, also Nigeria, a lot of African companies, and South American countries as well.
Why can't they go back to those countries? I mean, people people go backwards and forwards to those countries all the time for who live here legally.
Well, I'll tell you, they're actually never intended to come and study here in the first place or work here properly. So what happens is they use the fact, and once again it comes down to the machinery, Julia. They use the fact that it takes a year to decide an asylum claim, which can be decided in a day. Yeah. And during that year, while a case is being processed, they can stay in hotels and they can also work. The key is, Julia, that they can work.
Yeah, and then another year for the appeal, and we know how long. And then if you don't like chicken nuggets where you come from, then of course your kid might miss you. Then of course, what a surprise, you get to stay. Harjap Singh Bhangal is a UK immigration lawyer. So appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much indeed for that. Sorry for the buzzing. I think I had a phone on. I don't understand phones. Silent or ring, one of the two. I don't understand the buzzy noise. But there we are. Harjap, next time, turn it off. Sam Armstrong, look, I don't know how many more times I can have a conversation on my show about this. This is kind of getting to the point, or listen to another statement from Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper. Fundamental issue we've got with Labour is, I think, unlike a lot of the Tories who, the Robert Jenricks and others who talk a good game on this, is that I don't think they really think there's a problem with illegal migration. I don't think they really think there's a problem with mass legal migration. The British public absolutely think those two are both a problem. I think the Tories came round to the idea that illegal migration really was going to be an issue. Oh, look, you're out of office. That's probably why. But the legal migration, they've been fully on board. And this is when you get into the Marine Le Pens, the Giorgia Meloni's, the AFD leader, the Nigel Farage here, and I think Nigel Farage is far more to the centre ground than those party leaders, but simply pointing out that this is not something with which the British public are willing to put up anymore. And it's not because we're uniquely horrible and xenophobic and bigoted. No Western nation, whether it's Sweden or Denmark or Germany or Italy or America or, in fact, a lot of people in Canada now as well, they do not think that mass arrivals of people, particularly people from completely alien cultures who don't share our values, they don't think it's a good idea, and they're quite right about that.
Yeah, and it's not that just people have just got to the end of the tether, it's also that the numbers of people we are talking about coming into this country has exploded. We are talking about 1 million people arriving on our shores every single year. This country only has a population of 70 million people.
Not anymore!
If 1 million of whom have only come into your country in the last year, 1 in 70 people have turned up in the last year, you are not a country. You are a passing place at best. And all of these people, they come without a mile of road, without a hospital space, without a school, but they come with their own ideas, their own cultures, their own values, and their own, I'm sorry to say it, problems. And we know that there have been persistent, identifiable issues that come about with particular ethnic groupings, particular cultural backgrounds, when they come into this country and the values do not correspond or align with ours. And that causes understandable, genuine hurt, tension, problems, issues.
I'm sorry, I think I'm legally required to shout bigot at you right now. I mean, this is the thing. This is the way these things are count.
But I don't care if people shout bigot at me anymore.
No one cares anymore. Everyone's had enough.
Because the damage on the other side has risen to the extent in which this country had a problem of nationwide, industrial-scale child rape for over a decade, and nothing was done about it because people were afraid of being called a bigot. Call me what what you want.
I don't
I've
care
had
anymore.
enough.
Yeah, the R word doesn't work. You call fascist, racist, bigot. No one cares anymore. They've reached it's almost a badge of honour, which is a terrible thing because those three things are terrible things. But when you throw those words out at people meaninglessly, that's what you do with those words. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this.